Success of an entrepreneur.
We've raised the bar.
Learn firsthand from successful business owners and create your own path to success.
I'm going to show you how great I am.
It's time to hit the road to growth with team lead of the Enriquez Group, Realtor Vinny.
Hi, you Road to Growth listeners. Today I got Vikram Rajan. He is the co-founder of Videosocials. I mean, something I love about doing this podcast, of course, I get to hear the struggles, overcoming adversity, and I get these unique ideas, unique platforms that seem pretty straightforward. But once you actually dive into them, you're like, oh my gosh, why hasn't this been around already? And I guess there has been something like this, but I mean, walk us through your Videosocial platform.
Yeah, sure. So I'm up here in New York, and we've got members across the country. You know, they are lawyers, they're accountants, they're coaches, they're consultants, they're well-seasoned, well-connected professionals, and they need to stay top of mind with their potential clients and referral relationships. You know, just like I'm sure how you do, right? For those word-of-mouth referrals. And content is king. We got to put content out there. As you know, video is integral and prioritized by these social media platforms. And so we needed to give our clients, who we call members, a very fun, convenient way to create videos, get better at doing those videos, and then get them posted and shared, because when you get shared is when you're getting new people and new potential clients. So it's really started because when we started, we have another company called Phone Blogger, where we interview our clients over the phone and turn what they say into written articles. And as the algorithm started changing, we needed to kind of keep up with the times and bring our clients along and get into the world of video. And none of them wanted to do video. This was BC, before COVID. So they didn't know what Zoom was. They didn't know if they had a webcam on their laptop. You know how it was maybe that first week when everything got shut down, that it was a scramble. Well, our clients did that scramble maybe a couple of months prior to figure out video blogging. And I do a lot of networking up here in the New York area. My business partner, Mark, was the president of the largest, one of the largest Toastmasters chapters in the country. So I said, hey, Mark, what if we did like a combination of a networking group and a Toastmasters put on Zoom, which is actually novel back then. Now everything's on Zoom. But we said, look, it's not just about the elevator pitch. It's really about getting different topics, nuggets of knowledge, because that's what gets shared on social media. You create a library, and now you can use it in a variety of ways of a sales funnel, or promoting a podcast or a book or course, or different practice areas, or frequently asked questions, variety of video blogging, right? And so we started it, and we kind of call it a video blogging club. And we now host multiple every day. So we host 1 or 2 every day, 3 on Fridays. And it's a pretty fun way. And that's the first part of Videosocials. And as we were chatting offline, the second part is an automation app that takes care of everything in terms of mastering the video with captions, a headline, the call to action end screen, disclaimers that a lot of attorneys, financial advisors, and other professionals need get added automatically. And we're automation partners with Facebook Live and LinkedIn and YouTube and WordPress. So all our member has to do is like the video, make sure the captions are right, click a button, and the videos get posted for them automatically, which automates the social media grunt work. And then our members start sharing each other, because it's kind of cool to be with each other, recording videos in front of each other, learning those nuggets of knowledge, and learning different presentation styles and skills, and Videosocials in a nutshell.
So if I had to guess, building this platform, I would think you're either in sales growing up or technology, building apps. I mean,
My background?
Background.
Yeah, sales.
Okay.
I'm a marketing guy. You know, I've had to figure out how to scale my own word of mouth referrals beyond my networking time. I've had to help my clients who are really busy, who are used to belonging to networking groups, and we're big fans of networking groups. But there comes a time when, you know, you have to use LinkedIn and social media and email newsletters, and you need content for that. You need to scale your networking beyond your time. And video is a kind of an easy way to clone ourselves. And to kind of be in more than one place at the same time, and to have other people share us. So being in sales, being in marketing, I'm not a videographer. I am a computer geek from way back when. I was doing the chatting stuff in high school when people didn't do that stuff. So I was doing the LOLs before people knew what that was. But I hired programmers because I don't know that much about programming. So but I know enough to tell them what I want and kind of spec it out and say, this is literally how I want it to work, and know enough to kind of read API documentation and know that there's something in there that I can use, but not literally know how to code it. So I'm a geek, but not a coder.
So let's walk us through to your childhood. Were you in
Yeah.
sales growing up? Were you selling the neighbors?
Yeah.
Who's
Yeah.
Vikram
Yeah.
growing up?
Yeah. To this day, I'm waiting for those invisibility glasses that you get with selling magazine subscriptions and all the silly stuff like that. Did that. Made games when I was a kid in elementary school. Convinced my parents to take me to like a manufacturing plant and get games made to sell to my friends. That was like in 5th grade. Sold blow pops and bubble gum, like bubble yum, bubblicious, and all that stuff. That was in high school and got in trouble for that. And yeah, I did a lemonade stand, the whole bit. It was great cost of goods on that stuff. You're able to just grab it from your parents. Didn't really understand about paying for the cost of goods. So yeah, did all that fun stuff. I mean, that was just in my blood. I like that freedom and flexibility, and still trying to figure it out and make it work. But when I understood the concept of subscription income and recurring revenue and things of that nature, I said that, wow, that's really exciting that we can kind of staircase and step ladder our income from month to month. Let's focus in on a membership type community or subscription type service. So I changed many years ago from a consulting perspective to a done for you service or a done with you service. A lot of our clients, they're really busy, and so they can't always do it themselves or do it well and do it correctly and do it over and over again. I figured out that there's a lot of value for us to do it for them and with them.
So rewinding a little bit, you said
Yeah.
that sales was in your blood. Was that mean that your parents were in sales? Were they selling things, entrepreneurs?
No, my dad took an early retirement from the phone company. He is a management consultant from being a cost accountant. And so, as an entrepreneur, he's had to make it work. But I was his number one right-hand person, bringing him those referral relationships, bringing him those clients that he would then work with. So, yeah, I mean, my dad has the entrepreneurial spirit, but we didn't grow up running businesses and things of that nature. I kind of wish I had. I think I would have learned a lot more, a lot quickly, hands-on, if it were like a family business in that sense. But I was in partnership with my dad for a little bit, but really kind of in his retirement years, and I was an adult already.
So walk us through how was, I guess, working with your father in a professional setting. Was that difficult? Was that an easy transition? How was that?
It was challenging. It was challenging. We all have our own personalities, and I want to do it my way. I was a young adult, so I was much more brash and rash and wanted it my way. I don't know if I was always correct, but I definitely wanted it my way. So we had challenges in that sense. So when it came time for me to bring on my own clients, I wanted to focus more on the marketing side because that comes more naturally to me than the operations and process development and systems that my dad focused on, which in retrospect, I learned a lot from, because systems and processes within a company is paramount, is pivotal. So I learned a lot from there. But really, I went off on my own and became a marketing consultant. And became busy enough where I needed to bring on someone else to take over the overflow work. And I knew Mark Bullock for a long time. And so Mark is now my business partner and co-founder of Videosocials. So that was the transition over the past, decade.
Now, so you talked about partnering up with your father, right? So that was kind of almost a forced partnership. And then when you joined up with Mark, that was kind of, you found someone, I guess, some synergy. Did you learn anything working with your father compared to working with Mark that you wanted to take steps for that partnership to blossom?
Yeah, I mean, both Mark and I are very independent. And so, which is ironic because we're very much loners and we work well by ourselves. And we literally run a social company. And we believe in community and togetherness and gathering, but we do wonderfully by ourselves. And so for us, we don't necessarily need to be constantly in communication, but we touch base. And so from that aspect, I've always been in partnership, and I'm a huge fan of partnerships. I can't imagine running a business solo, like literally solo. And plus, we have wonderful staff and our raving fans. So we have a whole team. But in the very beginning, even right after my dad, like I wanted to find a good fit, and let's say perfect fit as a partner. And that was my number one thing, that I want to be able to direct some aspects of the company. Mark can direct other aspects of the company. And to this day, I may have a lot of that kind of visionary, crazy ideas, but he's much more stable and the sobering spirit, and thus he's a good foil and sounding board, because if I can sell him on the idea, then we can go to market, so to speak. I've proven it. He's a little bit older than I am. He's maybe like 11, 12 years older than I am. So that maybe also adds to it. So he has more life experience in that sense. So I can be a little bit more of that frenetic idea guy, and he's much more operations. So he is, we're a small company, but lack of a better phrase, he does have the COO type responsibility, which is helpful. So I can be kind of that quote unquote CEO role.
So you said that you always look for partnerships in building a company. Now, what does that process look like? If someone's listening right now, right, and they're thinking about starting something, but they kind of want to partner, was it finding the right person, having the idea, brainstorm with the idea, the transition? I mean, what does that kind of look like for you?
I think it's like any other hiring process, right? You hire for character and then competency. And so you have to gel and jive as people. It's like a marriage. So from that aspect, it's like you're going to be spending a lot of time together, either literally in person or virtually, or at least in spirit. Plus, he had the right background. He is much more of a trained computer geek. I'm a geek from, just growing up, but, he has an IT background. He has that presentation background of Toastmasters. He's a trained business coach. He kind of checks off all the right boxes in terms of competency, but in terms of character of who he is, there's a lot of trust and integrity. So as such, when you become business partners, you're becoming family, like a marriage. So from that aspect, I say trust is number one, because then you can kind of figure out the details. You can get into arguments, but know that there's trust, and there's like business love, so to speak, right? That that you'll get through it because you trust each other and you figure out the details.
For Mark, for example, was he a colleague? Was he a friend? Did
He
you
was
have the
he was a
idea?
colleague I knew in the business community. So we would see each other around the business networking world around Long Island, suburbs of New York City. So he knew my dad because everyone kind of knew me and my dad at the same time. Because at that point we were partners, and my father was kind of the gray-haired legitimizing force for me. And now I have my own gray hair. And so Mark was very much kind of in the orbit. And so he wasn't like a stranger in that sense. It wasn't like, hey, we met once, and it wasn't, first date, let's get married. It was very much, not that it was a courting period, but we got to know each other as people.
So how did that conversation look like? Hey, Mark, I got an idea.
Yeah.
Get feedback on it. Was that kind of
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. I mean, it was at that point, as a practice marketing consultant, it was like, hey, Mark, do you think you could handle a client like this? And at that point, my original idea was kind of very typical to a law firm or an accounting firm, many whom we worked with, was to create some type of a consultancy, very much essentially a certification type program or a licensing program, and create a coaching or consultancy. And I called it a consultancy back then because that's what I really knew then. Very quickly, as I got busy and he got busy, I said, well, look, now what do we do? Do we actually hire and start creating that triangle pyramid shape of an organization? Or do we create something that maybe is a little bit more scalable beyond our time? It was right around the time that we were kind of sick and tired of our clients not doing what we were telling them to do, around the word of mouth marketing using content. Back then it was written blogs, and that started the domino effect for Phone Blogger. And it was like, all right, well, we can hire someone to fill the role of that ghost editor type role that we have at Phone Blogger. And so that first hire with Marta was also essential and pivotal, because it was the first time that I wasn't necessarily doing the work directly for the client. I was no longer a consultant. I was kind of there, the manager of the project. And it was really Mark's insistence that, because I have a writing background, I started a writing magazine in college. It's a passion of mine. And him with spelling and grammar it's sort of embarrassing, and he'll admit it. So I would always be that editor for him. And then especially as Phone Blogger started, I was like, yeah, we can't have emails with like misspellings and bad grammar. Like literally we're an editing company. And he would very quickly said, no, Vic, don't take on that role. First of all, I was really maxed out as a business consultant, but he said, no, let's hire someone for that role. And then we can, as we train her and as she develops the systems and processes around it, she can train others, and we can develop a process and a plan that way. So, and it worked out.
So when you started with Mark, it was you take these clients, I take these clients, and working together under this one
Yeah.
umbrella?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was very much, lack of a better word, he was overflow clients. Like when new clients wanted to come in and work with me, I just didn't have the time for it. I said, hey, but let's bring in my business partner, Mark. And he took it on. Very quickly, people saw him as a face of a company, and he would bring on clients as well. And they wouldn't necessarily know me or know that it was like my idea. He was a little bit older, so if we went out to events together, he was very much, the point person, and people saw him as the lead. And I'm like, all right, I need to keep my ego in check. No big deal. Like I don't really care that I'm president and he's not. Whatever. The more success we can have for each of us, the better. And then he got maxed out as well, and we had to figure out a new model.
So when Marta came along, was that
Yeah.
when there was actually, I guess, a checks and balances of structure saying, hey, this happens, you do this, Mark, I do this, or?
Yeah, well, even before then, we had kind of a little bit of a, he had his clients, I had my clients, but yeah, it was a little bit more of like, all right, we needed a process in place because Marta needed to know what to do as an employee. And so that's when like the governance of the company really started formalizing because we had no choice. So I put myself in that position of like, all right, we got to tell her what to do and how to do it. And in the beginning, she did it all soup to nuts. With Phone Blogger, there are a couple of components. There's the interviewing of the client, recording that, transcribing it, editing the transcription, proofreading it, getting it back to the client, posting it on their website, social media, etc. And she was doing soup to nuts. And very quickly, Stacy came along, who was a good friend of mine from college. And Stacy couldn't do the interviewing part because part of the reason she wanted to work with me was to work from home because she had a brand new baby. And that baby is, now 7, 8 years old, or maybe close to 10 years old at this point. And she couldn't be on the phone interviewing because she'd have this crying baby in the background. I'm like, well, that can't be. But you can take on this part of the process off of Marta, where you handle maybe some of the proofreading and the posting on social media part. That alleviates Marta's time to spend more time with the interviewing. And so the roles and responsibilities started creating itself. So you can kind of see like the cells dividing into specialization. And then, Stacy has now her own team of other promoters who basically take the finished product once the client approves and kind of goes out on the social media and website platforms.
So it's kind of organic growth, I guess, as things are getting bigger.
Yeah. And it was organic, but it wasn't like random. Like it was like, okay, this is how it should be. Like it's okay that everyone does everything in the beginning, knowing that there are phases and parts to the process and that we could take this part and give it to someone else. Like it wasn't completely random, like, oh, I wonder what Stacy's going to do. It was very much, okay, yeah, this is exactly what you can do. Or I guess that this is the time because it enables Marta to focus even more. And that's how it is to this day. Marta focuses a lot on the interviewing, Stacy focuses on the promotion.
So everyone, at least to this point, were people in your network of individuals that you kind of brought on. When did you
Marta, we met through one of our closest clients to this day, Ada. I believe Ada is friends with Marta. They're kind of part of the same age group, so a little older than me, a little older than Mark. So I think it was like Ada's friend of a friend or something like that. So she was in the orbit. She wasn't random completely.
And was it just, we have an idea for this person, or was it, we find this person's looking for work, we could probably offset it? How did that work out?
Yeah, so Marta also had a lot of so her style and personality, is very trustworthy. She has a lot of life experience, but she also came from a tech background. She did a lot of work on radio and a lot of work with software. So she presents well. So in the role that we needed for her in terms of interviewing our clients and thus turning what they say into articles, she was technical and technological enough, but as an older woman, she's well seasoned and so can have a much more mature, experienced conversation with an attorney or an accountant and not have them feel like they're talking to a kid out of school where it would be too jarring for them. Here they're talking to really someone who's a peer in terms of life experience at the very least. She doesn't have the legal and accounting expertise, but that's okay because neither do their clients. But so the interviews had a lot of rapport, which enabled the client to feel very natural and comfortable, where they're not dictating an article, but they're being interviewed, and that turns into an article. And so, yeah, she had, kind of checked off the right boxes in terms of competency, but the character was there.
So did you and Mark know you were looking in the needed to hire someone, and you threw it out to your database, or what was that process like?
We didn't want to throw it out there, but we talked to our key clients and said, hey, look, we've got this idea. We know you're really busy and you're not doing what you're supposed to do in terms of content marketing. We could do it for you, but we're looking to really bring in and make this a process. And do you know someone who's like this? And Marta fit the bill. To this day, she still works with us.
Why? I'm curious. I mean, why did you go to your current clients and ask them for referrals compared to going to Indeed or another platform trying to find something?
We go to our clients all the time. We have a board of advisors now. We feel they know if they're a raving fan, we can trust them. They want what's good for us because it's what's good for them. So immediately it's like it's in the family. I would have gone to folks in my family and maybe not friend circle literally, but in my family and friend circle figuratively, because it's a who knows who, right? I mean, that there's an implicit trust there that everyone's vouching for each other, just like word of mouth referrals in the marketing world. So for us, why wouldn't we ask our clients for a referral to a resource the way we would ask them for a referral to a vendor or someone else outside? It feels natural and I think the right thing to do. The more you can talk to your clients, especially about things that you're thinking of rolling out, the better, because they can give you that feedback. They can tell you whether or not they're going to pay for it. But hopefully that they sort of need it and you kind of justify the process. And so that's why it's to this day, it's not like we don't want to bother them with the minutia. But if we're rolling out a webinar, we want their feedback. If we're rolling out a feature on a Brander, which is our software, I may not get their feedback right away. I get a lot of internal feedback and a lot of pushback. People are very candid with me. And so they'll give me feedback sometimes like after it's coded, literally a feature just rolled out, and and we use an internal chat system, and there's like constant feedback of why don't you do it this way and this way? I'm like, well, I wish I had the feedback beforehand. I find it very intuitive. And so to answer your question, really, I'm sure there's that logical reason that yes, it's the right thing to do because it's trust. For me, it's an emotional aspect of it's trust, so it's a gut feeling of who else am I going to turn to other than the people who want this thing to work for themselves.
Do you still do it to this day when you hire someone that you start out first with your network of people?
Usually, yes. We haven't really hired anyone in the past year or so, but yeah, I'm trying to think. And sometimes we do reach out. That's not true. I mean, sometimes we're reaching out if it's for something very specific. I met my programmers through Upwork. We have some VAs through Upwork, where it's a very specific job to do. And it's I'm sure they're sick and tired of me asking questions before. It's like that hire slow. I don't know if I necessarily fire fast, but the hire slow process, I definitely follow. And so I'm constantly asking questions and trying not to give leading questions where they know the answer should be yes. But of course, they're going to say yes to me. But I'm looking for examples. Literally just this morning asked one of my VAs who handles some of our podcast stuff. I'm like, well, I'm looking for some kind of work on another podcast that we're launching. And I said, can you give me examples of stuff that you've done? And I said, here's some raw stuff of what I have. Can you put it together? And this way she's able to showcase it rather than just say, yeah, I can do it, which, so even if I can't base it on someone in my circle of trust, at least there's some examples and some type of showcase, which is, what I want our clients to do for us or with us or expect from us.
Is there any change to the hiring process when it's from your network of people to someone that's not in your network of people?
Not really. They'll probably talk to me first, but they very quickly talk to Mark and Jackie, who I haven't mentioned, who's integral to our success. And Jackie runs a lot of our clubs. Most of our clubs are for Videosocials. And so if we're, let's say, hiring a tech host, the person who runs the club, that's a huge vetting process. It's going to go to me in quotes because it's like, all right, I like them. But it really has to go to Mark and really Jackie because she knows what it takes because she does it. So the process is still very similar. Like, yes, I'm going to have some vetting, but it has to go to the real person who will eventually manage the process.
What do you feel has been the biggest hurdle in building your business?
Especially with Phone Blogger, we were the best kept secret because we had first positioned Phone Blogger as kind of a ghostwriting service or a ghost editing service. And we quickly had to move away from that. And I don't know if we ever did that successfully, meaning, as I mentioned before, we interview our clients over the phone and turn what they say into optimized articles. And not everyone wanted, like, the public, their circle of influence, to know they have like hired guns who really do the work of their blogging and social media. And we would always say, like, look, we're your editor. The way, if you wrote a book, a manuscript, you would give it to an editor first before it gets published, let alone when you do approve any edits, you're not the one literally putting it into the bookshelves. You have a publishing company and distributors, et cetera. Like, you have an infrastructure because, you're a subject matter expert in your field. Like, why would you handle the marketing and distribution part? Nonetheless, as much as we rationalize it, we had a tremendous number of raving fans at Phone Blogger, but never got the same amount of referrals as we do at Videosocials, because I think the feeling was different. Again, there was a taboo, maybe embarrassment. They didn't really want people to know that they were using a service like that. Times may be different now. This was maybe 5-6 years ago. It was very much at the heart of that. With Videosocials in the past 2 years, it's like night and day. I mean, now we get a good amount of guests from our members who are raving fans. We're looking to add fuel to the fire of, like, how much more can we showcase our members and have them be that much more vocal, because constantly our members saying, we talk about Videosocials everywhere, and they're constantly inviting guests. And there's a process. We still have to invite them and vet them and see if this is the right fit and do the actual sales and marketing part that my business partner Mark does a lot nowadays. But that's become pivotal, and that's really because we changed it into more of a membership organization. So it very much mirrored and matched the type of membership organizations that they're used to: networking groups, professional associations, other kind of social clubs. So to invite someone as a guest felt much more normal, and even expected, and definitely to their advantage, because there are more nodes to the network, the more to their advantage of getting shared. And so when we kind of flipped the script and flipped the switch on that definitely changed. And it was practically overnight, and it's just been even more so. And now we have to do it more systematically and do it as kind of a more of a mature operation. But that's probably the number one reason. If I can conjecture that, it's people have said it to us. It's like, well, I don't know if I want people to know that I use an editor or that I use a writer, is how they would put it. And so we had to change that.
No, it makes sense. I mean, before you were the great and powerful Oz, right? Behind the scenes.
Beyond the wall.
Yeah, and now you're a exclusive networking group, so you want to be part of that so you can get it out there. So it kind of gives a different perception.
Yeah, and with Videosocials, there's no filter, ironically, right? So yeah, we were like Oz behind the curtain, and we're the editor and the promoter. With Videosocials, it's them on video. So It's good, bad, and indifferent. It's what you see is what you get. And so they have to perfect that better. With Phone Blogger, the onus was on us to improve them, their editor. With Videosocials, is much more kind of bringing back that Toastmasters concept. They themselves are improving their presentation skills. And that is a direct benefit. It's not the only benefit, because, great, you practice, but you got to get it out there. And even if it's not perfect, get it out there. But it less responsibility on us, so to speak, and more on them. And then the grunt work of social media is taken care of with Brander, our automation. So that itself is not like they're hiring someone to do it. They're using an app to do it. A lot of people use apps to handle their social media, like Buffer and Hootsuite, et cetera.
Now, your company has evolved over the last, couple of years. Let's say we're talking in 5 years from now. How do you think it's going to evolve over the next 5 years?
So I hope that we're still focused on the word of mouth referrals and scaling your word of mouth using internet technologies, kind of as that overall. That's been the overall from Phone Blogger, now Videosocials. 5 years from now, I think video will be as expected as a website is or a cell phone is. I remember when I got my first cell phone in college, it was like drug dealers had cell phones and no one else. So it's very odd. It's like getting beepers back then, back before cell phones. And then I remember like websites, it was like the cool thing to do, and it was very novel. And but it wasn't expected. It wasn't like everyone, of course you had a website. LinkedIn was the same way, right? In the beginning, we would like roll our eyes at getting invited yet again to LinkedIn. I was like, what's this joke thing? And it was literally a late night talk show joke, butt of jokes. And now LinkedIn is sort of expected. It's like, yeah, okay. It's not a weird thing. It's like not like eye rolling if you have a LinkedIn profile. It's like, yeah, of course you do. And if you don't, it's kind of odd, especially in our circles as a subject matter expert, an accountant, a lawyer, coach, consultant. It's like, what do you mean you're not on LinkedIn? It's kind of expected. Now I think video is at that same stage of novelty in a good way. From a marketing standpoint, it enables you to stand out, make a difference, really be different, but not so weird nonetheless. Video is obviously mainstream. COVID has accelerated that. So obviously it's here to stay. The algorithms prioritize it. But if you don't do video, it's not like you're some weirdo. And so you are able to capitalize on the novelty of it. But I think in a year, 2 years from now, if you don't have video on your website, if you don't have video posts on your blog, a blog has probably gone through that same iterations, right? Like even still this day, it's kind of, mainstream to have a blog, but it's not like necessary. But a YouTube channel, et cetera, I think will be there in 2 years from now. 5 years from now, it's hard for me to say, Vinny. I wonder when the avatar world will come in where, Facebook is now entering that world, but he's a little bit of a visionary, Mark Zuckerberg, of like, I forget who said it, with Oculus and the virtual meetings that Facebook is trying at least to create, and Google Glass. And if you remember, Google Glass was back a couple of years ago, kind of too ahead of its time. So we're still not there in terms of real VR, virtual reality, avatars and all that. And it's hard for me to say that in 5 years, will we be there? I don't know. I think we will be more of the video world in 5 years from now, but who knows? So it's hard for me to literally say 5 years. I really would say 2 years from now. But if it does get to the point where we're all used to strapping on some version of an Oculus, and those are Oculus now, right? And so it's so strange and it feels cumbersome, but we can think about, watching the movie Wall Street or thinking about the executives in the 80s with their car phones and how ridiculous that briefcase phone thing was. And we're like, no one's ever going to do that. And no, they don't. Now they have a cell phone like this. So we can imagine that in some part of the future, it won't be this giant, ridiculous Oculus glass. It'll be putting in our contact lenses. It'll be some other very simple thing, maybe it's surgical, where we do have some type of VR perspective. And that sounds really sci-fi and crazy now, but think about how crazy anything we do now is. I suppose a pandemic happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it would be really horrible. Now we're like, all right, let's get on Zoom. Let's get on StreamYard. And life goes on for a lot of our, kind of white collar professionals. And so I think in some degree, avatars and having kind of virtual representation of ourselves is going to come, and we'll be part of it because we'll be part of like the word of mouth world, because it's just another avenue of content. It's another way for you to scale your referrals beyond your networking time. In your busy schedule, how can you at least figuratively clone yourself, until maybe that literally happens, where you can clone yourself with content and video, which is a proxy of us being in person. It's not as good as being in person, at least not yet. But I think video enables us to be in more places than once, have people share us, and really scale the referability of our practices.
What do you, from your experience, is there an ideal time of your video elevator pitch?
In terms of length, you mean?
Yeah.
Look, BNI, Business Networking International, they're the largest networking franchise in the world. I don't know if it's the best per se, but they are the largest. And I have a lot of respect for them and a lot of respect for other organizations that maybe do it in better ways. But Dr. Ivan Misner talks about that 60-second elevator pitch, or that story with the memory hook. And that's a good framework to follow. Instagram cuts you off, at least they used to, for 60 seconds in a minute. So that's a nice round number. LinkedIn now is rolling out actively what they call their cover video story, which I just call their profile video. I don't know why they call it a cover story, but that's what they do. So if you, I don't know if you've noticed it, but if you hover over someone's photo, if it has an orange circle around it, you hover over a photo and it'll just kind of like magically turn into a video, and it'll be a video intro. And I think they cut you off after a minute as well. So I think an elevator pitch under a minute is great. The ideal length for a video blog, I think you can do a little longer, around 2 to 3 minutes. I think after that, you've kind of lost the scrollability, the snackability during the scroll, where it's like, how much am I going to listen to or watch in the nooks and cranny while I'm scrolling? 2 minutes is a nice round number. You can go beyond an elevator pitch into more substance and education, so people can learn a thing or two from you and share that aha insight. And so we focus a lot on shareability of what will get you shared. And very often the elevator pitch won't get you shared. It's a nice way of people remembering what you do, which is important, because if you're out of sight, you're out of mind, out of referrals. But to get shared by others, you got to give someone an insight, or it's entertainment, either way. So insight or entertainment, usually it's insight because we're subject matter experts. And so hopefully it's also entertaining. And they share you. So 2 minutes is a nice round number. At Videosocials, everyone has up to 3 minutes to get their video recorded. And we say, look, if you could do get it under 3 minutes, but then start getting it closer to 2 minutes, and it's like the 4-minute mile. Once you start doing the 2-minute video and it's not rushed, and then you don't feel like you've left stuff out, and it was a good story arc, you can then rinse and repeat.
If, let's say, you could talk to your younger self, that person that was partnering up with his father, is there any advice you would give to that younger kid, younger man?
Yeah, right. I would say get in 2 things. Start the recurring income generation as quickly as possible. If there's and part of that is take credit cards. It's kind of a subtext and subchapter of that. Maybe take credit cards first, because it was annoying to have accounts receivable and billing issues and having to put it out there, and I hated that stuff. So I was able to automate it and pay the credit card companies their percentage. That was tremendous. And knowing that it's going to get, I'm going to get that income once a month or whatever frequency was tremendous. So I'm not starting the month at 0, but it's a step ladder. So that I would have done much, much sooner. And I would have created some type of a membership. Part of that, right? It's very, congruent. But Phone Blogger wasn't really a membership in that sense. But what we have now as a community is tremendous. Like, I love it. It's just really wonderful to see our members grow with us, literally, financially, but also figuratively in terms of their personal development. And that helps them become raving fans. I wish I had done that sooner. Like, I wish we had brought our clients together sooner. It's great that our clients get to know each other. And it keeps us on our toes, right? We can't mess up. We can't do a disservice, because word of mouth goes both ways, good and bad. But that's okay, because that's, it holds us accountable to be great, and to live up to the integrity and the promise. And, don't be afraid of that, right? So those are 2 lessons, recurring and community.
If someone's listening right now and they want to be a part of Videosocial, what's the best platform, best way of finding it, hearing more about it, and kind of understanding a little better?
Go to our website. So videosocials.net. So plural, Videosocials with an S.net. When you go there, on the bottom right corner will be a chat box. It's not a bot, it's not like an automated thing. It goes to my cell phone. It's like an app on my phone. So if you type in there, it'll, click on my phone. And it's really great. I'll be able to chat with potential guests. And then really, I like to get to know our guests even before they come on to one of the video blogging clubs. But they can come to a club, they can sign up for that, and we can get together before they actually come. So in the top right corner, it'll say, be our free guest. And you go there and it gets to the guest registration website. We like people coming in just observing. We don't have to put you on the spot to get a video recorded. Though if you feel up to it, get a video recorded, because we want you to experience the feedback system, experience Brander, the automation, how you can actually use our system and get the videos posted on your LinkedIn on a frequency that you're comfortable with. So the easiest is chat with me, come as a guest, get to know us, see how it fits into your marketing and how it can scale your word of mouth referrals beyond your networking time and your busy schedule.
Thank you, Vikram, for being on the Road to Growth podcast. I mean, I think there's a lot of nuggets to take away from here. recurring. Get that credit card recurring right there. Building a partnership. I know for myself the idea, and I think it's a simple idea, but it's a great idea. Is reaching out to your raving fans and asking them, hey, we're looking to hire this position right here, because it also brings them closer to you.
Yeah.
It also gets their network there. I mean, I think it's just a great idea right there.
Yeah, they want you to succeed. They don't, and the opposite, they don't want you to fail either, because then you can't service them. And so if they're your raving fans, client or not client, but especially clients, they have a vested interest in seeing you succeed. And they will introduce you to the right people. They'll vet the right people. They'll be candid, especially if you can have that kind of relationship with them. And they go beyond client to fan, and that's really what it means.
Well, thank you again for being here. Everyone, please subscribe, please share, go to Videosocials, and on to the next one. Have a great one. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Vinny.